Hey Dunchbags, what's going on? It's Landon Remixes here, and welcome to Top 5, the series where I talk about compilations, because there's really no other logical way to do it, in my opinion. And today we'll be talking about the newest compilation from Monstercat, their collaborative compilation album with Rocket League for their new soundtrack called, appropriately, Rocket League X Monstercat Volume 1. At this point, Monstercat is long past their cartoony stage, they're moving on in the world, they're making big moves, and the first of these big moves is featuring a soundtrack in a video game. That video game, of course, being the kind of wacky soccer game Rocket League. And although when this was announced, I didn't personally play a ton of Rocket League myself, I was regardless still very excited to see Monstercat, my favorite label, finally featuring in a video game. I was even more excited for this compilation though when I realized just how much potential magnitude it had, with it featuring so many longtime label favorites like Efixa, Aerocord, Vicetone, Rogue, Tristam, also including a slew of some of my newer favorites like Conroe and No Taker. So yeah, I was stoked for this thing. In fact, I probably think it had the most potential for a Monstercat compilation probably since their 5-year anniversary album. But did the compilation live up to the hype that I had for the release of it? In short, no. When the singles from this album started to drop, I was starting to notice a consistent half-baked quality coming from artists like Tristam, where the songs honestly almost feel like cheap knockoffs of songs they've already done in the past. In Tristam's case, Bone Dry to me sounded a lot like Before We Fade. For Bone Dry, I probably could have let it slide just because I love Tristam's vocals and his progressions, but Tristam on this track is just absolutely off the deep end when it comes to diving into pop music, and the vocals, the vocal chops for that matter during the drop are just absolutely awful in my opinion. I would have preferred anything Tristam's released in like the last 3 years probably over this one. You've got Rogue with yet another trap song using those same rattlesnake hi-hats that he's used in basically every trap song that he's done since then. You've got Aerocord, who I historically have loved releases from, but on the song Drop It he gives us absolutely nothing interesting either on the melodic side of things or in the production side of things, and generally this stays the case for most of the artists on this compilation. In fact, some of the more interesting moments on this compilation come in the form of artists trying out different styles. We get both Zero Hero and Ramses B trying out Future Bass, and although I wasn't a huge fan of either of those, it was for sure interesting to see them at least trying out something different when most of these artists are just sticking very, very comfortably to what we know them for. Probably the biggest disappointment on this compilation, at least for me, was Apex by Vicetone, and if you guys don't know, I used to be a massive fan of Vicetone. I love their old style of big room house, but the more recent direction that they've kind of moved, I just haven't been a big fan of. And I find it funny, they actually went back to their older style, but in probably the worst way they could have, with the drop kind of being this like super generic, like future house melody. I didn't absolutely love their previous Monstercat release, I Hear You, but I at least thought it brought a couple unique things to the table. This track really does nothing. And like I was saying, you could kind of let these pass if these songs were just kind of sitting in the background while you were playing a Rocket League match, but that's simply not the case. These songs are meant to be listened to. They're only played in Rocket League on the main menu when you've really got nothing else to do but listen to the music. And now that all of that's out of the way, this is a top 5 video, so obviously there is going to be a little bit of a positive spin. This isn't my favorite Monstercat compilation by far, but it's definitely not my least favorite, and I think there was some decent content on it. So let's get into my top 5, as always in no particular order. First up, we've got 0202 by Eminence, which is to my knowledge the first time that the duo has ever tried out tech house. This is actually my favorite that Eminence has done out of the numbered tracks they've put out so far. I love the kind of dark, minimal feel that the song has, as well as its more gritty elements that feature throughout the track. And yeah, it is pretty weird to see a song like this in Rocket League. I think it would fit a lot better in a club than in a video game, but I think it was a great song regardless. One of my favorites Eminence has done in probably the last year or so. Next, we have Break Me by Trivecta featuring Kara, and when this thing dropped as a single, I was absolutely stoked, considering we haven't seen any releases from Trivecta on Monstercat since Into the Limelight, and I think it was early 2016, so seeing him come back and on a great track like this was really cool. This song does see Trivecta kind of going full force back into his melodic dubstep sound, so obviously there's a lot of influence from artists like Seven Lions here. The song didn't end up super unique, but it's refreshing nonetheless, and that's largely thanks to Kara. I definitely wouldn't have loved this track as much as I did if it was just an instrumental, but Kara's vocal performance is absolutely killer. Like when she put out her first Monstercat release, Chardonnay with Conroe, I didn't didn't think her vocals were absolutely astounding, but after this track, it has me believing that she could be like the next Haley-in. And it really works with the style of the song as well. I'd love to see Kara doing more melodic dubstep vocals past just Trivecta and Seven Lions, and hopefully her and Trivecta are going to work together in the future because I think his production really works well with her vocals. We'll see. Next we have Collisions by Drulu, which is probably my favorite instrumental track that this album has to offer. I mean, what else can I say? Drulu's just got such a unique and textured style of trap music that I just can't not love any of the content they put out. And no, Collisions doesn't have the same effect that a song like Jump with its vocals from Nev or Bon Voyage with its really lustrous chops does, but this song is good nonetheless. Drulu's sound is just so unique that they pull something different off with every single track, and they managed to do it with this one as well. Next on the list we have a song that I definitely shouldn't love as much as I do, Love You Need You by Slushy. Especially because the song is so cheesy and simple. I mean, Slushy literally made the song in its majority on his way to Buku to perform this year. I'll admit, I just love those bright tones, those really happy, kind of candy sweet vocals that Slushy provides. And you know, the Jersey Club influence drop ain't half bad either. For reasons I can't fully explain, Love You Need You has been the most listenable track on this compilation for me. It's definitely been the track that I've come back to the most by far. And maybe that's a combination of my short attention span and the song's length, clocking in at just 2 minutes 27 seconds long. Like I said, I probably shouldn't, but I love this song, I need this song. And taking my final spot is probably the song that deserves it the most, Rocket by Tokyo Machine. This is Rocket League's new main theme, and simply said, they couldn't have picked a better song to be that. It's purely energetic, it's electro house, which is probably the perfect genre to pick for a game that largely features race cars. In general, I think Tokyo Machine's kind of futuristic metropolitan sound fits really nicely in a game that's about playing soccer with race cars. And I've gotta say, when you open Rocket League and this song is the first thing you hear, as a Monstercat fan, that's about the coolest thing ever. And yeah, that's about it. Like I said, definitely not my favorite Monstercat compilation, but it's probably also pretty far from the bottom, if that says anything. And I do have very high expectations for Monstercat Uncaged Volume 2, so look forward to that video whenever that's coming out. I don't even know when the compilation's dropping, but I'll have a video when it does. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this edition of Top 5. I'm Landon Remixes, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.